First story. I once bought a vacuum cleaner. I remembered that I once bought a vacuum cleaner from a strange man. I drove up to the address, called. Came out a man and was like, "Let's go, it's in the garage." So while we were walking, I decided to ask him, "Why are you selling it? Does it suck bad?" It was a wedding present, and we already had one, and it probably sucks like my wife. I was confused by this statement, but I decided to ask him, "Is it good or bad?" "I have no idea," and he left. Second story. Showing up at my parents' house. Every time I arrive at my parents' house, I never know who else will inhabit it besides my parents. After one story, I'm not surprised anymore. I arrived home one May day. From the doorstep, I'm asked to be quiet, because there is a baby sleeping in the hall. I can't assess the child at once, because the child is wrapped in a blanket and sleeping. Well, I think, probably at the mom veterinarian, on treatment, behavior broad, or some eagle, or a raccoon. And then the baby sticks its face out, and a hoof. To a reasonable question, "Mom, why did you bring home a deer?" I'm told it's a moose. It's only a week old, and he's going to live with us. Okay, I think. There is a moose in the house. Moose in the house. Cool. And then we nursed him back to health. We laid carpets to keep his hoofs off the floor. Fed him milk every 2 hours. Then the moose realized that the refrigerator was giving him milk, and he went to the kitchen himself, hinting that he wanted to eat. The moose was taken outside, because the stairs were a problem. He also considered himself a dog, and thought that if a dog sleeps on the couch, then he can. And he kicked the dog off the couch, and tried to fight with the owners for a place. And it all went on until he was moved to the aviary. Third story. I dropped this one. Today was in the store, paid for purchases at the self-service checkout, took the check and headed for the exit. On the way to the exit, in an attempt to put the check in my pocket, accidentally dropped it, then picked it up and shoved in my pocket again. And then a woman of about 40 years old comes running up to me. Then it's me. W. Woman. W. I dropped it. Me. Excuse me? W. Give it back to me, please. It's mine. Me. Are you sure? W. Give it back quickly. Me. Well, here you go. I take the check out of my pocket and give it to her. W. Ah, it's a check. I thought it was money. Goodbye. I was really confused. P.S. What was that? Fourth story. About life without a home. Between the ages of 12 and 18, I was homeless. It's a simple story. In the 90s, my father, who lost his job and savings, suddenly and strongly believed in God. From that moment on, my life was not very fun. Since my father prayed to the Lord all his free time and had no time to walk, my mother took me, a 7-year-old student of the 2nd grade of a music school, to the street, and I began to play the violin there. For a couple of hours I played for $9, which encouraged my father, and so began my career as a street musician. On weekends or after school I played on the street. A couple of years later, my younger sisters joined the same business, and things got better for my father. When asked on the school questionnaire about my parents' profession, he told me to write theologian. He beat me all the time, and he hit me hard. Once he broke my nose, but worse was the psychological abuse. He developed his own religion. His mother, a seamstress motorist by education, sewed him something like a cassock. He himself drew icons and equipped a home temple in one of the rooms of the apartment. The essence of religion was that the old people around are dogs of infidelity, doing lawlessness, and therefore it is impossible to eat pork and celebrate secular holidays, but you can play music in the street and give all the money to your father. and there will always be a reason to get drunk. I tolerated it until I was 12, and then I started to run away from home. I remember my first escape. I went to school. There were problems at school too, as my classmates found out about my walk, teased me as a bigger, and started bullying me, and came to the train station. I found the right train and lurked behind a transformer box. When the train started moving, I jumped on the step. I sat in such a way that I put my feet on the bottom step, sat on the second step, and above my head there was a folding thing that conductors usually lift during stops. This I expected to travel 600 kilometers and get to my grandmother. After 20 kilometers the train made an unscheduled stop, and after a short chase I was captured by the police. They asked me why I had done it. I said that I wanted to ride the train. The next time I didn't go anywhere. I hung around the city. For some reason I was afraid to walk in unfamiliar places, so I didn't leave my neighborhood. I had some money with me and used it to buy food. I slept the first night on chairs in a street cafe, the second night in the attic of a house. The third night I wanted to sleep in the entrance, but someone scared me away and I decided to change my location. On the street I was detained by a passing patrol. I told the inspector in the children's police room that I was running away from home because my parents wouldn't let me have a dog. She, the inspector, squealed at the whole department, trying to explain to me how bad a boy I was. After the next escape they couldn't find me for 3 months, then a year. Then I learned to hide and became elusive. When you live without a home, there are a lot of challenges. I tell you how I solved them. I used to get money for food in the underground passages. I'd stand near the wall, bag in hand, and sing songs. They say I was a good singer. Thanks to that skill, I never went hungry. If someone tried to ask me who I was and why I was singing in the crosswalks, I would turn on the fool and tell a story about my mom and dad not giving me money for candy, and I love candy. If I noticed that someone was looking at me, I would disappear for a long time. You can't last long alone. Everyone needs friends. My new friends were just ordinary neighborhood kids. Most in our company had parents who were busy surviving, and we were on our own most of the time. For some reason, the idea of doing something useful never occurred of any of us. So our main activity was sitting in the yards and drinking beer. Petty hooliganism as a hobby. You could say that we lived our party. Everyone was aware of all the events in the lives of the others. The attic of the apartment building became my permanent place of residence. We brought there a sofa from the garbage, a black and white TV set, a rug, various books. I regularly went to someone's house to wash myself. You could get to the attic from the roof or through one of the 2 porches. I had a clever system that allowed me to leave quickly each time if guests come from one direction. The guests were different. Mostly they were employees of the building and various installers. Neither of them cared much about me. But a few times the local police tried to take me by surprise. But no matter what time of day, and no matter how silently they crept up, I managed to slip away. The situation was alleviated by the fact that other homeless people were sometimes caught in the neighboring attics. I think no one ever came to the realization that I lived there steadily. I still wake up at the slightest rustle. When I turned 18, no one could force me to live with my parents. I stopped hiding, got a passport. I got a job as a handyman in an interesting office, and started living there. Now, many years later, I remember the times of my homelessness with a gratitude to fate. It was a unique experience, and an opportunity to look at the whole society as if from the outside, or at least from a different angle. When you're outside the system, you can ask yourself who you are. Most people are who they want or are used to being by those around them. Over time, this becomes a habit and the person becomes like a biorobot, acting according to one of the standard algorithms. People can't even believe that anything can be changed. They resign themselves to the inevitable. A huge mass of unhappy, tired people. I won't say that my life is easy, but I now at least have a sense of infinity of the world. And I know that a lot of things that are considered possible only in fairy tales or movies are possible in reality. I believe in miracles. Why did I write this post? Loneliness. You can't find people with this kind of worldview, and there is no one to talk to. Fifth story. How I blew the whistle on another man's wife. My friend's wife works in the office right across the street from my house. In the evenings and nights, including weekends, I often see their lights on, and my friend regularly complains that his wife almost sleeps at work. In general, her place of work has already become a proverb in our language, as the designation of a slave galley. And so, one Friday night, when the time has already passed 22 hours, I look out the window. I see the light is on in 2 offices, and somehow, without a backward thought, I took a picture and sent it to my friend in WhatsApp with the words, "And the office is still working and writing." To my surprise, he called me back immediately and asked when I took the photo. I answered that just now. He hung up and immediately called me via video link, asking me to show him the building opposite my windows. I was beginning to suspect something wrong, but I did as he asked. He mumbled something like, "What a bee," and pressed hang up. And the gist of it was this. His wife had told him that she would be working through the night, so let him go to bed without her. And in the photo that I sent him, here's the problem. The light in her office was not on. My buddy took off, took a cab to the office, stood at the entrance and called his wife. She answered, and when asked, "Where are you?" she boldly said, "I told you, I'm at work." But she did not expect further. The comrade asked her to go out on the porch, saying, "I was passing by, I thought I'd drop by." Naturally, she began to try with all her might to escort him home, but instead her husband went inside, talked to the guard, looked at the key transfer log. It turned out that the key to their office was handed over a few hours ago, and even persuaded the guard to allow to walk around the office, supposed to look for her. But who would have thought it? She was not there. She flew home just 5 minutes after her husband came home, and tearfully explained herself, telling some tall tales about her girlfriend, who suddenly needed her attention and help, and she lied about her job. But somehow it came out like that. I just was scared. Why are you bothering me? You don't believe me? I can call her right now. Why should I lie to you? And now my friend is sitting there thinking about it. He realizes that she is making a deer out of him, but he can't make up his mind to take a radical step. I'm just glad they haven't had kids yet, or he'd go crazy. And, on the one hand, do not want to believe that she cheats on him, but on the other, a grown man, and not such a life had seen time, all perfectly understands, and in fairy tales do not want to believe. And I sit, listening attentively to him, and I think, is not my fault? Didn't I ruin the family? But I decided for myself that in such a situation I would prefer to know the truth, rather than be content with blissful ignorance. We wrote this story together with him, in case someone has a sensible thought, or maybe someone who has gone through a similar experience. Some advice might help. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe.